guitar players of all time. Can it be done? Okay, I've often had people in the comments of my video sections ask me who my top 5 guitar players would be. And, that's a very tough question. Lists of any kind when it comes to music, it becomes very hard because do we judge music by record sales? Do we judge, in the same way that, look, you could put together a top 5, say basketball, starting 5, let's say, and you could compare all the stats. You could compare the stats of the different centers and the different point guards and all that stuff and try to come up with a number 1. But even in that equation, you're not really taking into account, if you're just going by stats, you're not taking into account spirit, the spirit of a player. And, the spirit is why I would say Michael Jordan is the all-time greatest basketball player. His spirit, his will to win. He may not have been the nicest guy, some will say, but he had a spirit to win. He might not have as many stats, maybe as some other people who have had longer careers, but he had a spirit. There was a spirit about him getting on the court. And you could say the same thing about musicians. Man, look, there's young kids now that can play circles around all of the 60s and 70s guitar players that were, amazing players. But do they have any spirit? Do they have, any magic in their playing? Something struck me when I watched footage from the NAMM show. And this is interesting commentary. The guitar player for, I guess it's Polyphia, the ones that beep, that style of guitar playing. I noticed he had the longest line I had seen of any of the footage. Now, I did not go to NAMM this year, so I had to go by what people filmed. But he had an incredibly long line to go see and get an autograph from him at the I guess the Ibanez booth. So that would be probably a guy that the younger generations would say would be one of the greatest of all time, or at least for this time. And he certainly, him and a few other people have concocted sort of a unique way of playing that seems to be, really taking heart with the Instagram and the 30-second clip sort of guitar players. It seems to be also a person who focuses a lot on image. He's changed his look over the years, and now when I see him, he's looking extremely feminine. But hey, you can't say that the 80s rockers back in the day did not look like women. A lot of them did. I get it. Image is a huge thing, and he is somebody that, plays up whatever image he's got, and his playing technique is unique. And it's also, think about this, his playing He's playing over what are trap beats. What are trap beats? Trap beats are hip hop based beats. And that hip hop, is extremely popular with the youth. And so by playing over these beats, it's something they can relate to. They hear these cricket sounding hi-hat parts and, a guitar playing over top of it, and people go nuts. But, when I was looking at footage from NAMM, I came upon a jam, and it was, I think, the best playing that I had seen of any NAMM clip was the clip of Isaiah Sharkey and another gentleman. His name is escaping me right now, but leave me a comment and let me know this guy's. I'm not sure, but and I don't want to mess that up. Much respect to him. Some of the best playing that I saw of all the clips from NAMM were these two gentlemen playing at the D'Angelico booth. These guys had these sort of thin jazz boxes, and they're playing some jazz standards. And it's great to see that still alive. It's great to see dudes doing that. Isaiah is a little bit of a younger gentleman, and the other guy seemed to be a little bit older. And I've seen the other guy a lot, and I've certainly seen Isaiah Sharkey a lot. He's a guy who's doing a lot of things in the music business, and incredibly talented, known for his R&B chops and church chops, some would say, and incredible melodic rhythm playing and stuff that he does. But seeing them play some jazz, what do they call it? What's the word? Oh man, straight ahead. Seeing them play some straight ahead jazz, seeing them, kind of blend styles, a little bit of a funk feels and stuff, and then go into the, jazz, and then, double time and doing all the things that a great jazz player does, playing songs like Round Midnight. Isaiah Sharkey's playing on Round Midnight is just, it's incredible. And it reminds me of George Benson, and but Isaiah added some of his modern sort of gospel playing to it. But it definitely made me wonder. I wonder what a young George Benson would do against these guys. George was an incredible jazz player. Man, run up and down the fretboard and just play incredible stuff. So I think young George Benson would give those guys a run for their money, maybe even take the crown. But it was the best playing at NAMM. And this all ties back to my top five. So don't think I'm getting sidetracked here. I'm a little bit sidetracked, but I'm getting back to it. There were many other jams and playing situations. There was the John Mayer and Paul Reed Smith and Mark Lettieri jam, and that was a big jam and a big stage, big production, and they all three of them had great tone, and yeah, they sounded great. But that little corner with that D'Angelico booth, just a little corner, and people jammed in. That was the best playing that I had seen at NAMM. And it speaks to something, because John Mayer is a huge star. John Mayer plays music that's, for the masses. Yes, he plays, and he plays a little bit more than, say, a traditional pop star these days. But he essentially, is a player known for his great playing, but very tasty. Doesn't really dip his toe in the jazz realm. Paul Reed Smith is a solid player, a very good player. And Mark Lettieri is a great player as well. But the best playing at NAMM was that little corner jazz jam, with whoever the drummer was, played great. The bass player playing off the stage, kind of standing in the shadows there. Great sounding player. That was the best playing at NAMM. So when you say who is your top five, I mean, look, it really comes down to genre. And, how can I compare Joe Pass or George Benson with Eddie Van Halen? Look, as much as I love Eddie Van Halen and how incredible his playing is, and it's very difficult to master that style, it's even harder. It's even harder to play like Joe Pass or George Benson in his prime. It's even harder to do that. It's probably even harder to do Alan Holdsworth, than to do the Joe Pass thing. These are styles. These are styles playing over chord changes. A lot of what, say, a Van Halen does is, he does move around the chords a little bit when he solos. It's not all like pentatonic kind of stuff, but the songs aren't as harmonically complex as, say, a song like Round Midnight. Round Midnight has some thick chords full of harmony. And to play over that song as masterfully as those guys did at NAMM could be a lifetime pursuit for many. I know I am not there yet. I am not at that level where I could play over those changes and sound like that. And so when you say who are the top five of all time, I can't compare Eddie Van Halen to Joe Pass. I can't compare Alan Holdsworth to Joe Pass. I can't compare Jimmy Page to, I don't know, Chuck Berry or something. It's all so different. It's all so unique. And that is the beauty of music. Not selecting a top five is probably a greater wisdom than selecting one. It's easy to throw out names. I could, Van Halen, Hendrix, Clapton, I don't know, whoever you want to go down the rock list, but that's just one genre. And comparing what Hendrix does or Van Halen does to what somebody like Joe Pass does, it's so stylistically different. But I will say, man, those guys, look, I think guys like Joe Pass, I think they appreciated what, say, Eddie Van Halen did. I think he heard what was going on and realized this is that these people are taking guitar to another place. But it wasn't what he wanted to hear when he picked up the instrument. It would be an interesting experiment to put a screaming guitar with gain in the hands of somebody that, played straight ahead jazz back in the old days. But, nowadays, I think probably at one point or another, The modern jazz guitar players have probably picked up a guitar with tons of gain and just as a lark, maybe by accident even picking up their guitar and somebody had screwed with the controls or something. But you can't compare these people. There's popularity, and then there's musicianship. Joe Pass never reached the point where he could, buy a Lamborghini or a house on the hill and a big recording studio. And, that speaks more to the popularity of music, understanding that just like country music would be more popular in the Appalachian mountains and, the hills of West Virginia and, the valleys of Tennessee and all throughout the South. And that is why you have country musicians that some have jazz chops. Look at a guy like, who was the guy that played on some of the 50s and early 60s Elvis stuff? Hank Garland. It's a guy who did country sessions in Nashville in the early days, the 50s and early 60s. And he put out a jazz record. Go listen to the Hank Garland jazz record. Here's a guy that was playing on country records, Patsy Cline, and I think he played on Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree or whatever that song is. Whatever that song is, he played on Elvis. He played on Little Sister, I believe. That's him playing on there. But this is a guy that could play jazz. And why did he learn to play jazz? Well, because he was a great musician. And he wanted to learn. Now, I've heard people coin the term redneck jazz, and that was certainly a thing. You had, Jimmy Bryant and Speedy West and people, Western swing and all that stuff. People who were, played with a country feel, played with their natural country sort of inclination, but wanted to expand their horizons, Maybe if Eddie Van Halen hadn't have gotten so deep in his cups, shall we say, and had his issues, maybe his playing could have advanced. Maybe he could have embraced a little bit more of a fusion feel on some of his albums, and it wouldn't have sold as many records. It wouldn't have been as popular. But we could have maybe seen the true breadth of his talent. But in some ways, his playing was stunted by having to, confine his creativity to popular music. And that's an interesting thing. I mean, there's jams of Eddie Van Halen playing with Alan Holdsworth. And it's said that Eddie had been drinking a lot and wasn't in his full facility, but man, he was probably extremely nervous to get up on stage with Alan Holdsworth. I don't think, look, there's been times where people say, hey, come on up and play, and I hear the band that's playing and I just go, I'm not dipping my toe in that deep water. So imagine being Eddie Van Halen and primarily a one key center rock player and having to get up on stage with Alan Holdsworth, who's playing these voicings where his hands are contorted all over the neck and the key center is changing from one bar to the next. I mean, you can't, there's a few Holdsworth tunes, like isn't Devil Take the Hindmost. I think there's a whole section where he's playing over, I think it's G minor. Of course, he's stretching the limits, the harmonic limits of G minor over that entire jam. But in most of his songs, it's chord change, key change, key change, key change, key change, key change. You're literally weaving a web across the neck. So, can I pick a top 5 guitar players? No, I can just say that I love guitar playing. I love it pretty much of all playing styles. And even the modern cats who I don't really listen to that much, and I'm not sure that their style works in anything outside of their compositions. I love hearing the sound of a guitar. I love hearing it played well. And rather than picking who's better and who's at the top of the list and all this, I just like to kick back and hear a great guitar player play.